In this episode, I'm going to discuss how expectations impact performance, how certain types of expectations lead to loss of composure and increased pressure and anxiety, while other types of expectations actually help us perform better. Hey there, I'm Eli Straw, a mental performance coach who works with athletes from around the world on building a stronger mental game. It's natural for athletes to have expectations for their performance, especially when they've been doing well in practice, they've been seeing themselves improve, and then they're going to go into a game where it matters. So now we're going to start placing expectations on ourselves to perform better. But one thing I've seen among pretty much all the athletes I work with in my one-on-one coaching program is that when we set the wrong types of expectations, this leads to stress, anxiety, and loss of composure. Now, when I say the wrong types of expectations, I mean a very specific type of expectation, which I classify as outcome-based expectations. The other form of expectations that I'm going to discuss later on are process expectations, or expecting things that you can control. Outcome expectations involve you expecting yourself to perform well, you expect yourself to get a certain score, you expect yourself to get a certain stat line. Now, on the surface, those seem like no-brainers, right? Of course, I'm going to go out there. If I'm playing golf, I want to shoot a certain score for the round. If I'm a baseball player, of course I want to get maybe 1 or 2 hits today, or I expect myself to keep my batting average above 300. If I'm a basketball player, I might expect myself to get at least 10 points this game, or at least 5 assists. Those are things that we want to achieve. But the trouble comes in when we expect those things of ourselves to a point where at the first sign that we're not achieving them, we end up getting frustrated and we get down on ourselves. Or actually, before the game even starts, or as the game is starting, we're playing with so much more anxiety than we do during practice because we don't have these expectations placed on ourselves during practice, but then during performances and competition, we do have these expectations placed on ourselves. So now we're stressed about achieving them or afraid that we won't achieve them. So the loss of composure part is probably the main reason that I see expectations hold athletes back. And it's because whenever we get angry, whether it's in sports or in life, we typically get angry because an expectation that we had was not met. And when we base our performances on these outcome expectations, we cannot fully control whether or not they happen. We can do everything we can to make them happen, but we can't guarantee that we're going to get a certain number of points or shoot a certain score in golf. Those are things that happen as a byproduct or a result of our performance. So during a match, let's say I'm playing golf, right? So during a match, if I expect myself to shoot even par throughout the entire round, and then I triple putt or 3 putt this hole, and so now I shoot 2 over, so I get a double bogey or something on this hole. At that point, in my mind, my expectation has not been met. Because my expectation has not been met, that increases the frustration that I will experience in that moment. And now I'm thinking about how I'm not performing well and I get frustrated. And then I carry that frustration into the next hole. Because I'm more frustrated during that next hole, now my performance will drop because I'm not as focused on what I need to be focused on. I'm tense, I'm stressed out, and I'm carrying that into my next shot, and that's going to hinder my performance. The same thing applies to all different sports, but when we have these expectations set initially, these expectations that are based on the outcome, such as I have to do this or I have to do that or I need to play perfectly, that's when we will then see loss of composure happen, and we're going to see ourselves get more frustrated, and that holds us back. The next way these expectations hold us back is by putting more anxiety and pressure on ourselves when we're actually playing, so either at the start of the game or just throughout the match. So let's say I'm a baseball player and I'm expecting myself to get a hit, or I'm expecting myself to stay above 300 with my batting average. And I go up to the plate and I'm so fixated on that now I'm pressing, right? I'm pressuring myself to do well. I'm not relaxed. I'm not just letting things happen. I'm tense. I'm forcing things. That's going to create a difference in my performance and in my hitting than what I normally do during practice. And so if I'm seeing myself do well in practice because there aren't too many expectations, I'm just relaxed, nobody's keeping score, but then all of a sudden when the score is kept, now I'm stressing, now I'm pressing, now I'm forcing things, and that's going to cause me to underperform. This is why, as athletes, we have to be careful not to fixate on these outcome-based expectations. Yes, we want them to happen. Of course we want them to happen. But that's also the whole reason that we're out there, is to achieve these outcomes. But just because it's the whole reason that we're out there, that doesn't mean we have to fixate on it, we have to focus on it. Instead, we want to focus on and expect things of ourselves that we can actually make sure happen. And this brings me to the correct type of expectations that you want to set during games. And those are expectations based on what you can control. So whenever I'm working with athletes, I love walking them through an exercise where they outline their outcome expectations and then they break them down into mini goals. These mini goals will be controllable goals that they can focus on that will put them in a position to play their best. We can also view these as the standards that you have for yourself during games. And we want to make sure that these standards align with helping you play your best. So it's not that we're saying we don't care about playing well, but we are recognizing that our fixation on the outcome is only holding us back. So instead, we want to say, yes, I want to shoot even par throughout this round, but then I'll ask myself, well, what do I need to do on a shot-by-shot or hole-by-hole basis to put myself in a position to do that? And when I say that, I also recognize that I might not shoot even par, but I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that happens. So then when I'm thinking through what do I need to do to put myself in a position to shoot even par, I think, well, I need to make sure that I stay composed and I'm calm for every single shot. That becomes a controllable expectation. And then I say I need to make sure I line up every shot well and I take my time. That becomes an outcome, or that becomes a controllable expectation for me. So I'm breaking these outcome expectations down into controllable mini goals or controllable expectations that I want to stick with every single shot, every single moment throughout the game or throughout the match. And if I do that, not only will I keep my attention off of these outcome expectations, not only will I reduce the frustration I'm experiencing, but I will actually increase the chances of getting those expectations. And that's the paradox that we find within sports. When we fully focus on these outcomes and we expect these things of ourselves that are not 100% in our control, we actually lower our chances of achieving them. But when we accept that these things are not 100% within our control, we want them to happen, but we accept they might not happen, and instead we turn our attention onto what we actually can control on a moment-by-moment basis to help us achieve that, the chances of us getting those outcomes increase. So what I want you to do right now is I want you to think about the outcome expectations you have during games. Make a list of them. Then I want you to break them down into controllable mini goals. The things you can expect of yourself, not because they are based on the outcome, but because you actually can expect these things of yourself, because you can make sure they happen. I remember I was working with a younger athlete and I asked her, how would she feel, or would she feel like it was unfair if she expected something of her younger sibling that was not 100% in her younger sibling's control? And she said, no, that would be unfair. And then I was explaining to her that's exactly what she's doing when she expects herself to score a goal every single game. She was a soccer player. Because that's not something 100% in her control. It's unfair of ourselves to expect things of ourselves that are not within our control, but it is completely fair for us to expect things of ourselves that we can make sure happen. Whether that's in terms of our mindset, in terms of our approach, in terms of how we respond to mistakes, in terms of the amount of practice we put in throughout the week. When that becomes our focal point, we don't even have to worry about the outcome because it's going to happen naturally. It is a byproduct of us doing these small things well and us sticking to our standards. So make that list for yourself. What are all the controllables that you need to focus on in order to play your best and to put yourself in a position to achieve these outcome expectations that you want? Now, the last thing I want to mention in this episode is that we can use both of these expectations together, both of these forms of expectations or types of expectations, I should say, because outcome expectations a lot of the times are strong motivators for us, right? So I expect myself to play my best every single game. That's a great motivator, but we have to take it a step farther, right? It is a goal that we're setting, an outcome goal we're setting that needs to be broken down into these smaller mini goals. So if you find yourself lacking motivation until it matters, right? Until the game is important, until they're keeping score, that's fine, but make sure that when it does matter, you then break it down to those controllable mini goals and you focus on those controllable expectations, because no matter what level you're playing, no matter how experienced you are in your sport, you're going to achieve those outcomes you want more consistently when you do the small things well and you focus most of your attention on the controllable parts of your game. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you are interested in one-on-one coaching, I've put a link to learn more about that in the description below. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and I wish you the best of success in all that you do.